Some new reporting by Matt Orfalia.
Hey everyone, Matt Orfala here. I was recently in the news talking about KHive, Kamala Harris's online fan base. I exposed tons of poor reporting by the mainstream media and showed how KHive was actually boosted with a ton of fake Twitter accounts run by a Democratic Party consultant.
Well done, Matt Orfala. Thank you so much for doing this.
Okay, so what led to this article was a recent LA Times article which profiled KHive. I got curious. I started researching, looking up their KHive sources. And, well, I was blocked and I've never interacted with them in my life. So whenever that happens, that always piques my interest even more. In this video, I'm going to take you through that KHive article and explain how KHive was boosted by bots. Kamala's KHive boosted by bots. The true story of KHive. While the media defends KHive's disturbing attacks on critics of Kamala Harris, new findings reveal a Democratic Party-linked bot farm amplified its leaders. An April 8th LA Times profile of the KHive attempted to put a positive spin on Twitter's nest of Vice President Kamala Harris superfans, omitting the group's online abuses, offline harassment, and alarming origins. Describing the KHive as, quote, the type of modern political army that politicians increasingly rely on for both support and defense, the LA Times painted its members as political realists united by a desire to defend one of the most powerful politicians in the country from unfair attacks. Because who needs more help than the most powerful politicians in the country? Turns out that Harris's modern political army was manufactured with the aid of an army of fake Twitter accounts. After the term KHive was formally branded by MSNBC pundits like Joy Reid, KHive leaders received a boost from a Democratic Party operative-controlled bot farm. So just think about this. KHive has been described as a grassroots movement. Yet the KHive the term came from MSNBC pundits, Joy Reid tweeting it out, and the KHive was created by people online, a lot of unhinged, hateful people online who just happened to get a boost from Democratic Party connected bots. Because you can't be more grassroots than MSNBC and fucking Democratic Party controlled bots. Just think about that. This is what has been described as a grassroots movement. Okay. One of the people most advanced by the botnet is the widely recognized founder of KHive, Bianca Dela Rosa. Here's a quote from her. Gotta kill very violently, like actually killing people for not agreeing. Bianca Dela Rosa, the founder of KHive. According to Vox, KHive credited Dela Rosa with organizing KHive in a Facebook group that started in 2017. Bustle confirmed that many KHive accounts point to Dela Rosa as the creator of KHive, as did the LA Times' own source, Reese Colbert, whom it identified as, quote, one of the more prominent members. During an appearance on CNN pundit Bakari Sellers' podcast, Colbert credited Dela Rosa with creating KHive. So everyone knows Reese Colbert is the big poster child of KHive. She's been in practically every article about KHive. She's been photographed with Kamala Harris and her husband. Her husband has tweeted out a photo with her, calling her a friend. So she's the KHive poster child, and even she has said that Bianca Dela Rosa created KHive. And again, Bianca Dela Rosa is the author of that wonderful tweet up there, gotta kill very violently, like actually killing people for not agreeing. but she's still on Twitter. So LA Times didn't talk about any bot farm or even the founder of KHive. So beyond this omission, the Times failed to inform readers that Kolber and the Twitter account Black Women Views are the same person. Instead, the Times quoted Kolber as two separate people. So they quote Black Women Views at the top, which is Kolber's Twitter handle, and then they quote Kolber later in the article. Never said it was the same person. Democratic Party connected Twitter bots helped drive KHive. The LA Times let KHive describe themselves as truth tellers, when in fact they are notorious for spreading noxious lies about their political opponents. For instance, KHive spread a baseless lie that journalist Walker Bragman was, quote, literally caught running fake Black Twitter accounts. In reality, it was KHive members who were connected to a network of fake Twitter accounts, some of which used the profile photos of deceased women of color. Classy, super classy. In 2018, an extensive investigation discovered a network of Twitter bots run by Democratic Party communications consultant Sally Albright. Dela Rosa, then Brave Knack blog, and her fellow KHive ringleader Dane Weeks, aka Mr. Dane 1982, aka Mr. Weeks 1982, aka Wonder Bitch 82, aka Wonder King 82, were among the Twitter accounts most promoted by the bot network. So there you go. KHive leaders were among the accounts most promoted by the bot network in the form of retweets. So they got the most retweets from the bot network. The bot's most commonly retweeted negative or positive word was racist, artificially boosting tweets accusing Bernie Sanders supporters of racism. Here's one sample from Sally Albright, which got retweets, many retweets from these fake accounts. Sally Albright tweets, "They don't care because Bernie told them identity politics is bad, unless it's white identity politics. So that's what they believe." That's Sally Albright, Democratic Party op, tweeting out that Bernie Sanders supporters are white supremacists, that they believe in white identity politics. That was retweeted many times by the bot farm. In 2019, Albright was again caught gaming Twitter for fraudulent purposes. However, her Twitter account was not banned until late 2020, near the end of the election. How about that? She got caught in 2018, 2019. Twitter let her stay on until the end of the election. Got caught meddling in the election, but the Democrat meddling in the election, that she didn't get any press. This didn't get any press, and she remained on Twitter until the end of the election, and she's back on Twitter. At least 7 of Dela Rosa's accounts, Brave Knack blog, Bianca and Dela Rosa, Bianca Cossetti, Brave Writing, Brave Knack 2020, were eventually suspended by Twitter for violations, including abuse and harassment. Dela Rosa's current Twitter handle is Real KHive Queen Bee. She also uses Queen Bee Dela Rosa and has used many others, including KHive Queen Bee, Brave _writing, KHive Queen Bee, spelled B-E-E, and Wonder Bitch 81. So that's about a dozen accounts that she's used. Several of them she's been suspended from. And she's still on Twitter. But get this. Using multiple accounts to circumvent suspension violates Twitter's rules. In fact, these KHive tactics are the very same tactics that Twitter banned QAnon accounts for using. Yet still to this day, KHive leaders proudly admit to circumventing suspensions as far back as 2015 and remain on Twitter. And here's a tweet from Black Professor, aka Wonder King 82, aka Mr. Dane, who was one of the accounts most boosted by the Butt Network. Here he is, just this April 8th, saying, "Damn right I'm riding with my friend, real KHive Queen Bee. We were the original tag team duo taking on Bernie Sanders minions in 2015. We rode with Hillary Clinton until multiple of our accounts were suspended. I'm not riding with people who failed to credit the Queen for her creation." So there they are admitting to, and Dela Rosa retweeted this, by the way. So they're proudly admitting that they've been using multiple Twitter accounts since 2015 to attack Bernie Sanders supporters. One of the LA Times KHive sources, Kennywalden, tweets under Raw to Real. Notorious for calling for the death of Bernie Sanders, Walden has been banned on Twitter at least 3 times before under various aliases. Kenny Eyes, King of Clapbacks, and Kenny Boo 93. And he's been banned on Twitter for reasons, for these 3 times. These 3 accounts have been banned, suspended, for reasons such as, quote, this is according to Twitter, he was managing multiple Twitter accounts for abusive purposes. Did the LA Times talk about any of these suspensions? No. Did they talk about what any of them were for? No. Violent inspiration. In June 2020, Dela Rosa unleashed a call for murderous violence, quote, like actually killing people for not agreeing. She mocked people promoting MLK as, quote, too soft, and laughed about breaking someone's nose with 1 punch while blaming the victim. It's his fault, she stated. Such declarations of violence may be why the Harris-friendly media makes little to no mention of the Queen Bee. However, there was one particularly ironic exception to the code of silence around the KHive's menacing behavior. MSNBC's Malcolm Nance. On Twitter, the network's national security contributor acknowledged that some KHive tweets, quote, openly expressed racism and violent threats. And he asked his followers to report Dela Rosa. Instead of being suspended, Dela Rosa was hailed as KHive's brilliant inspiration. And you can see on Twitter, she receives endless praise from KHive. Even an MSNBC national security contributor like Malcolm Nance has acknowledged that accounts like hers, including hers, openly expressed racism and violent threats. She didn't suffer anything. She's still on Twitter. And here we have a blue check saying, please recognize that KHive was started by the brilliant woman below, Bianca Dela Rosa. Do not erase her part in this historic moment. Well, you know what? It's so funny because LA Times and the Harris-friendly media, they're trying to erase the true origins of KHive. But KHive themselves, they want Dela Rosa to get credit. I'm giving her credit, finally. I'm finally giving her the credit she deserves. Threats of harm. In its fawning depiction of KHive, the LA Times failed to mention that its members have taken their harassment campaigns beyond Twitter and into people's personal lives. 2 women told HuffPost that KHive members made threats against their children. KHive contacted one woman's ex-husband at his place of employment to tell him he should check on their 11-year-old daughter. KHive members accused another woman of being a white supremacist, calling her place of work 15 times to get her fired. Then someone filed a report with Child Protection Services and falsely accused her of child abuse. The LA Times reported that KHiver Shantae Berry denied making threats when she tweeted a list of Harris critics who, quote, may go through some things pretty soon. However, in a video published on Twitter, The paper's other KHive source, Kennywalden, threatened everyone on Barry's list. He said, something is about to happen, y'all. Y'all about to lose your motherfucking job. Every motherfucker who was on Shantae's list is a fucking revisionist and a white supremacist.
She said everybody on this motherfucking list, something is about to happen to them. And you know what? She's absolutely right. Something is about to happen to y'all. Y'all about to lose your motherfucking job. Every motherfucker that was on Shantae's list is a fucking revisionist and a white supremacist.
Note, the KHive list of alleged white supremacists happens to include people of color. Interesting. It's almost like these accusations of racism and white supremacy are complete bullshit, and that they just fling these accusations of sexism and racism against anyone who has any concern or any question of Kamala Harris or any powerful woman like Hillary Clinton. KHive often insults people for being, quote, white. Sometimes they're anti-Semitic. Dela Rosa says, quote, the Jews ran off. We're mad at them for abandoning us to be white with white people. In another post, she suggested Jewish people hate black people. Albert Molina told HuffPost that KHive repeatedly said he was white and accused him of being a white supremacist, even though he identifies as Hispanic. Dela Rosa taunted Molina with a racial slur. And she's just tweeting him, says, you're a sellout, you're the Latin version of this, which is a picture of a raccoon, coon. There's so many examples I saw of KHive attacking people for being white and white supremacists, even when they weren't even white. According to LA Times, the KHive is just a bunch of moderates who tend to promote pragmatic liberalism. That's how they describe the KHive. They tend to promote pragmatic liberalism. Media hypocrisy. Well, there's the classic example, one of the classic examples. You have the Daily Beast saying that Bernie bros are loud, proud, and toxic to Sanders' campaign. And then they say for Kamala Harris built a digital army. Now she gets to use it. Do you see the hypocrisy? By the way, that army was built with fake Twitter accounts. Some real people, but they were created. They were given a voice by retweets from fake Twitter accounts. Remember, the LA Times cast blame on Sanders during his 2020 campaign for his supporters' quote, abusive behavior. That's how they described it in the Times. To this day, however, the Times defends Kamala Harris from association with verified abusive behavior. The verified abusive behavior of KHive. I say verified because Twitter has banned their accounts for abusive behavior multiple times. And they're still on Twitter. They keep coming back. Same people. And yet, there's literally no mention of abuse and scarcely any allusion to it in the paper's Kamala Stan coverage. And I tweeted out, KHive uses the same tactics that got QAnon banned and more. KHive was boosted by a verified Democrat-connected bot form, has a history of abusive behavior, and even glorifies violence. Meanwhile, the media just writes stories resembling Kamala Harris clothing commercials. Did you see those images in the LA Times article? It's just Kamala Harris clothing. It's a Kamala Harris clothing line commercial. It's ridiculous. As national political campaigns fight for social media dominance, It is natural that the online bases they establish will attract some deranged individuals. But inside the KHive, the most violently unhinged voices tend to earn the most praise, while mainstream media looks the other way. Harris and her husband, Douglas M. Hoff, have openly embraced and encouraged the KHive, praising its members as pretty awesome.
The KHive. They're pretty awesome.
Because being promoted by a bot farm and harassing people offline, threatening people's children offline, and spamming and lying about people, exercising abusive behavior such that you repeatedly get banned on Twitter, Kamala and her husband think that's pretty awesome. So that's the story. I'm working on a follow-up that looks at the top couple hundred accounts that were promoted by this bot farm, and I'm discovering some interesting stuff. I accept tips, guys. I accept tips. This is a lot of work. This is real investigative journalism. Please support it by supporting me on Patreon if you can. Patreon/ORF, ORF. It's always super helpful.
You, Matt. You're making my fall off.
Man, great job, Matt.
He goes by the name Orf.
Wonderful job.
Let's call him Matto, because I don't want to butcher his name.
Matt Orphalia.
Matt Orphalia.
Matt Orphaleo.
Subscribe to him.
Matt Orphala.
Matt Orphala.
Matt Orphala.
Incredible.
If I follow this guy on YouTube, you should too. His name is Matt Orphalia.
Orf.